Hey VC, Crazy Jimmy here with another video. This is going to be an Acid Archives edition, and I'm actually going to be showing a family of albums, and I think a couple of them are in this book. But the reason I'm going to do a family of albums is because with this particular album, there was like a branch of other albums that came out of it with band members from this band. So, but before we get to that, first I want to thank everyone who has subscribed, everyone who watches. Please, if you like what you hear and see, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, and comment. And I try to answer every comment, so time permitting. So appreciate you guys certainly taking the time to watch. All right, let's get into it. Today's Acid Archive submission is going to be Markley, a group. And there it is here. There's the label. This is an original pressing in the shrink. It's on Forward Records. And the reason I said this is going to be kind of a family of records because this is actually, I want to say it's the fifth in a line of albums that this band put out, which we'll get to in a second. But the West Coast pop art experimental band, this Markley album, it was slated to be their fifth release after this one. So this was their fourth, and this was their third. Their fourth was this one, which I'll get to on a different label. And then the band kind of broke off, and Markley ended up releasing this, but he pretty much had the help of his former bandmates from West Coast. So it's considered their last album, their fifth and last album. So even though some of his band members were kind of getting tired of Markley's act, he was certainly an eccentric and considered, based on some lyrics that he had written, to be a possible admirer of little children, which I'm not going to get into on this. That's, further reading if you'd like to get into that. Not sure anything's been documented in that regard, but his lyrics and album cover choice certainly hint at his enjoyment to hang around little kids. So, but you know what? I'm here for the art right now, and I got to tell you, this album is just phenomenal. It's as good as any West Coast pop art album, in my opinion. Now, some will disagree, but this particular album is just as good, if not better, than anything that the band has put out. And you can see on the back here, you've got Michael Lloyd, who was in West Coast. You've got Bob Markley right there. You've got Dan Harris up top. And Shaun Harris right there, all contributing to this so-called solo album from Bob Markley. So let's go ahead and read. It's a quick little blurb on page 209. And then we'll get into the family of albums that kind of came out of this band and these band members, which are all phenomenal. Okay, so Markley, Los Angeles, California, a group, 1969. I may be in the minority here, but I enjoy this as much as any of the proper WCPAEB albums. So that's the West Coast pop art, as it's full of left turns, crazy arrangements, freaky lyrics, and catchy tunes. As with their first reprise album, it sounds like a killer garage pop album filtered through the mind of a whacked out genius. Side 1 in particular is strong, while a certain filler feel may creep in towards the end. Still an absolute must hear for pop psych fans. I couldn't agree with it more. Just a killer pop art album Do not sleep on this. This is a West Coast pop art album. It's their fifth because all the entire band pretty much takes center stage here. Plays instruments, sings, the whole 9 yards. So just a killer album. Now, let's get to the family of albums. So we talked about West Coast pop art experimental band. This was their fourth and supposedly last album. I just straightened that out and told you that Markley, a group, is their last album, technically. But this is their last in name, and it's on Amos Records, which was legendary for releasing the pre-Eagles albums. When I say pre-Eagles, the band Shiloh in the 60s, I want to say 1969, released their first and only full-length album on Amos Records. And Shiloh was famous for Don Henley being in that band. So, and then another band on Amos, I want to say, was Long Branch Pennywhistle, which was the only album by pre-Eagles album by Glenn Frey and J.D. Souther, who did that album as a duo. And that was also on Amos Records as well. So this is the only album that West Coast Pop Art did on Amos. And you can see here Markley, Bob Markley's front cover. He actually picked out this photograph for the front cover. I do not know who the little girl is. She is clothed, which is half the battle there. See the scorpions and the my understanding is that Scorpion's Virgin Killer album, the naked girl on the front cover of that was banned and like pulled off the shelves or never made it to the shelves. That was like the producer's daughter or something. So I don't know how that got out, but yeah. So Bob Markley, but really great album. I actually like the cover. I mean, aside from the girl, I like how they have the band kind of on the left and the right. Pretty cool. So, and then before that one is one of my favorite from West Coast Pop Art, and that is Volume 3, A Child's Guide to Good and Evil. Again, Bob Markley with the Child's Guide, and has like a cool little butterfly there. This was on Reprise Records with the two-tone label. It's an original pressing in the shrink. And then prior to that one, we had Volume, I don't think it was Volume 2, it was this one. Part 1, and the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band Part 1. Their titling is strange. This is a mono pressing on Reprise, that tritone Reprise. And then we have Volume 2, which was their second album, I want to say. And we've got a mono promo here of this one. Pretty cool stuff. Great album, by the way. All these have great Baroque, Psych, pop art type tracks. So if you like Sagittarius and you like Millennium, and you like even some of the psychier psych sounds of Simon and Garfunkel in their early stuff, in those type of vocals, the real breathy, like childlike sounding vocals that I love as well. That's what you're getting here, especially from, next is this guy, Shaun Harris. And he was in West Coast Pop Art, and of course he helped out on Markley, a group. This is just a fantastic early 70s album on the Capitol label. If you don't have this and you're a fan of West Coast Pop Art, and you're a fan of what I'm showing you here, and Baroque art pop psych, that type of sound, that Millennium Sagittarius sound that Kurt Bocher was getting, was pumping out in the late 60s, then you're going to love this as well. Just a phenomenal album. This one is not in the Acid Archive, but the West Coast Pop Art has an album in the book. It has the Volume 1 in the book, which I do not have. It's the only one I don't have from this band. and probably the only one I will never get from this band because I'm not a big fan of that one. It's more garagey, and I'm more into the pop, the psych and pop and acid psych of these albums. So unfortunately, that first one didn't really do it for me. But last but not least, in the family of albums I just showed you is this Michael Lloyd album called The Smoke, and it's a self-titled, and this is an original on Sidewalk. It's kind of a cool label. It's basically like a subsidiary of the same thing as like Tower Records. So like Tower, Pink Floyd, the USA Pink Floyd albums were on Tower. So Sidewalk is like a subdivision of that. Let me just show you what this looks like. So really great. This Smoke album is unbelievable. I'll read from the book on this one. This one's in the book as well. This is probably my favorite out of the whole family of albums. Obviously, A Child's Guide is probably my favorite from West Coast. But from the Smoke, this is my favorite out of all of them. So if I match this up, this would be like my number one. And probably because this is the closest to like that Oracle and Odyssey, Beach Boys Smile, Oracle and Odyssey sound, Left Blank, that type of sound, Millennium, Sagittarius. Michael Lloyd is definitely my favorite member of West Coast pop art. He has the best vocals. He writes the best music for me. So that's this is just a must-have. This is an acid psych album that everyone should own. Just look at this cover too. It's so cool. Check out, look at the graphics there. Very Sgt. Pepper. And I want to say this was 1968. So let me just read from the book on this one. This one, The Smoke, is on page 301. So let's get right over to it. There we go. So The Smoke, so you're getting for like a 3 for 1, but 2 for 1 out of the book. There it is. Okay, The Smoke, 1968. Nailed it. Sidewalk Records. This is certainly one of the best U.S. pop psych albums, straddling the edge of soft rock, light psych like Sagittarius, but rocking quite a bit more convincingly. There's a definite Beach Boys influence, but the soaring vocal arrangements and guitar, bass song structures move in a direction those boys never dared tread. I think it goes on. Let's flip. That said, it's nowhere near as weird as West Coast pop art experimental band, and could easily have had mainstream success if the cards were right. Great songs like Gold is the Color of Thought encapsulate the era perfectly. The stereo pressing exists with both Sidewalk and Tower record labels. So this reviewer really liked The Smoke and calls it one of the best U.S. pop psych albums. And, you know, I've got to agree. Markley, the first one I showed from the book, is certainly fantastic. Great acid psych, pop psych album. But The Smoke is just a level above that. Just in another stratosphere. So definitely you can pick this one up now. In this condition, you're going to probably have to spend about $100 to $200 in this condition. But you can get a VG Plus, VG Plus to anywhere between 60 and 90 right now. So that's for that one. And then the a Markley, a group for this condition here, you're probably looking at 100 to 150, and then probably like $50 to $80 for like a VG Plus. So these are very affordable. They're not like $500 records. They're records that can be had. I do not recommend picking up represses of any of these. I don't even know if the Smoke has been repressed. I have no idea. I don't even think the Markley's been repressed. But even if it was repressed, I don't recommend modern represses. Most of them are digital. Most of them have a digital step. And even the ones that claim that they're all analog and they were from the master tape have a digital step in there. It's just bullshit. So, excuse my French, but I'm kind of like, don't get me going on modern represses. I don't care who it's from, who says it's. I don't care about Chris Bellman. I don't care about Kevin Gray. I don't care about UHQR. Any of that nonsense. Nothing compares to an original, clean original press to me. You know, are there represses out there that are great? Yeah, there's represses out there that are great. Are there represses out there that are better than the originals? Yeah, probably. But my problem with a repressed album is, number one, I've heard a few that are phenomenal, but most of them sound veiled and compressed to me. And then the collectability factor just isn't there. You have a collectability factor with an original press. An original press is original only one time, right? And I can guarantee you that there's no digital step in either of these. There's no digital step. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get a bum pressing. I mean, you can have 40 of these from the Smoke lined up, 40 of them, all clean, and they're all going to sound a little different. They're all going to sound, some are going to sound better than others. No question about it. But I think that's what's fun about collecting records. I think you kind of take the fun out of it when you go to a store and you buy a modern repress that's probably been digitally sourced or has a digital step in it, and you're still paying, these days you're paying anywhere from $20 to $50. Some of those RSD titles were ridiculous, like that Gene Clark, No Other Demos, I think it was like $50, $49.99. It's absurd. Just go buy No Other. Just go buy the original album and listen to the demos online. That's what I say to that. Just absurd, but don't get me going on that. I digress. Anyways, thanks for watching. Definitely check out the Smoke, West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band, and Markley, a group. And of course, last but not least, this one here, which is Shaun Harris's solo. Really good stuff. Love the font too on that. The font they used is pretty cool there. But you cannot go wrong with any of these albums, especially if you like that psych pop sound of Sagittarius, Millennium, and Odyssey and Oracle, of that ilk. You will not go wrong with any of these. Once again, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.